What's happening, everybody? Trey here, and today at Reactions to the Classics, it's time we revisit the parody master himself, Weird Al Yankovic, and man, it is time, man, for another Top 10, Part 3 of our Top 10 right here. Again, brought to us by our longtime Weird Al fan, patron, and supporter of the channel, Evan David, for bringing this one. He brought Parts 1 and Part 2, which you can go and check out either before this if you want, or after this, whatever the case may be. We'll have it linked at the end screen, and I'll be sure to put it in the description as well, man. So done 20 songs so far, and we're gonna do another 10 today. Looking forward to it, and let's just get into the quick facts, a little overview of Weird Al, and then we'll get into this countdown. So Evan David, with his fantastic write-ups, knows that rock and roll legend has it that the future Weird Al Yankovic was born Alfred Matthew Yankovic on October 23rd, 1959, raised in Linwood, California. He first picked up what would be a signature instrument, the accordion, the day before his 7th birthday. Under the influence of a somewhat overprotective mother, Al would later spend many hours in his room with his accordion rather than playing outside, in time learning to play the likes of Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album on it. Apart from EJ, other key early musical and or comedic influences upon Al included the likes of Frank Zappa, Spike Jonze, Stan Freberg, Alan Sherman, Shel Silverstein, George Carlin, Monty Python, and above all, Mad Magazine. Perhaps the most significant influence on his career, however, was the legendary radio broadcaster and comedy music aficionado Dr. Demento, who would himself play a key role in exposing Weird Al to a wider audience after the then 16-year-old first gave him a cassette of his earliest musical parodies, which when Demento visited Al's high school. Kind of a cool story right there. Having acquired his Weird Al nickname from his bemused college dorm mates, Yankovic later used the name when he became a comedy music DJ in his own right while studying architecture at California Polytechnic State University, while also still sending further parody material of his own into the Dr. Demento radio show, eventually culminating in his first 2 real single successes, namely My Baloney, a parody of My Sharona by The Knack, and recorded in the college bathrooms in order to achieve a suitable echoey sound in 1979, and Another One Rides the Bus, based on Queen's, of course, Another One Bites the Dust, first recorded live on the Dr. Demento show in 1980, and which Al and future drummer John Bermuda Schwartz would memorably perform live on The Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder a year later, with Schwartz providing percussion, i.e. banging Al's accordion case, and various wacky sound effects to accompany Al's wild accordion playing in what was his first TV appearance. Al then began the process of putting a live band together, whose members would eventually include the aforementioned John Schwartz, Jim West on guitar, Steve J on bass, all of whom remain at the core of Al's band, alongside Ruben Valtierra on keyboards, who joined in '91. Weird Al and his band finally signed with the Scotty Bros record label in '82, following the top 40 successes of his Joan Jett parody I Love Rocky Road, a classic right there, people, which was produced by Rick Derringer, as were Al's next 6 albums, beginning with the release of the self-titled Weird Al Yankovic album in '83. This album also saw his music videos first begin to appear on MTV, beginning a symbiotic process by which would soon lead to Al's Eat It single reaching 12 on the Billboard charts in 1984, in large part due to the success of the video, which was a shot-for-shot parody of Michael Jackson's Beat It video, which had inspired Weird Al's tune in the first place. The impact of this video alone on Al's career was huge, for as Al himself put it, "Before Eat It, I was just kind of this faceless jerk from LA who made silly records, and after that, I was a highly recognizable jerk from LA who made stupid records." So began a gloriously eccentric and perhaps surprisingly successful career, which would see Weird Al release no fewer than 14 studio albums to date, all of which were filled to the proverbial brim with top-notch pop culture parodies, as well as a smorgasbord of often equally funny original songs on every album as well. In the process, meanwhile, Weird Al had sold not only over 12 million albums, including 4 gold records and 6 platinum ones, but has won no less than 5 Grammys. Written books for children, appeared on many live-action and animated shows and movies, including releasing his own self-starring film UHF in 1989. Later followed by a spoof biopic Weird Al, or Weird, the Al Yankovic story, starring the ex-Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al himself just this past year in 2022. I still got to get around to watching that myself. And he finally received his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2018. Sadly, as of this writing, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is yet to follow suit and induct Weird Al, which surely is a travesty of monumental proportions. For as Yankovic himself puts it, I like to think that I'm at least a footnote in the history of rock and roll. I'd like to be considered the court jester of rock, at least for the period I've been around. Some interesting facts here. Weird Al is one of only 3 artists to have had a U.S. top 40 single in every decade from the 1980s to the 2010s, inclusive the others being Michael Jackson and Madonna. Indeed, it would probably be easier to name a popular artist or group who haven't been the good-natured target of Weird Al's parodies. And while there have been occasions where artists or their management at least have been reluctant for one reason or another to give Al the permission which he always asked for in order to lampoon their work, in the vast majority of cases, knowing that Weird Al wants to parody your work is seen as a true musical rite of passage, echoing Dave Grohl and Kurt Cobain's comments that his wish to parody their track Smells Like Teen Spirit, which in Weird Al's skillful hands became Smells Like Nirvana, was one of the first signs that they indeed did make it. Cobain himself said that Weird Al is a modern rock genius, and it is certainly the case that the sheer loving affection with which Weird Al is held by his fan base would match or even surpass that of most, if not all, the more mainstream artists that he parodied. For as Al's guitarist Jim West points out, quote, "When it comes to the live thing, sometimes you feel like you're on stage with Elvis, Jesus, and Santa Claus. The way the crowd looks up on the stage, it's an incredible energy source." And Evan David notes he's been lucky to attend 2 Weird Al concerts, the first in Birmingham, England in 2015, and the second in Manchester just this past month in February 2023. Evan David notes he can hardly agree with this statement, as both were truly joyous experiences all around. And again, just what is the secret behind Weird Al's success up to this point? Is it the broad and commercially wide-ranging nature of his parodies? Al himself notes that I just soak in as much of the world and TV and media as I can and kind of mix it around in my brain, regurgitate it somehow, and hopefully it's funny. It is his undoubted value as a social commentator and satirist, with Al himself having long claimed to hold up a mirror to society, albeit a funhouse one. Or then again, is it the equally undoubted fact that Weird Al and his band are simply really, really good at what they do? Again, Al himself insists that, quote, "My band is extremely versatile. It kind of irks me when some people will denigrate the band by saying, oh, they're just a comedy band or a joke band. You know, doing humorous material implies that the craft isn't there, when in reality, it takes a tremendous amount of skill and craft to be able to pull off that kind of stuff. These guys are seriously some of the best players in the world." Or is it the fact that Weird Al himself is a genuinely decent chap from all accounts, whose fans thus see him as a beloved friend rather than some untouchable pop idol, and what goes around comes around? Evan David notes from his personal experience, which has evolved from first unknowingly hearing a Weird Al tune in 1986's Transformers the movie, to beginning the process of collecting all his albums in his university years, to happily seeing him twice live, as mentioned above, to doubtlessly boring my fellow RTTCers with countless Weird Al comments during our live streams, to finally coming up with this 3rd Weird Al Top 10 that you're about to hear. All I can say is that I agree with all the above reasons to at least some extent. Above all, I would contend that Weird Al's success is mostly down to the simple fact that his tunes are just so much fun musically, as they are funny in comedic turns. And after all, to quote K-on's Yui Hirasawa, sometimes fun things are fun. It's all you need to say. In compiling this 3rd top 10 list, moreover, I've tried once again to have a representative sample of some of Weird Al's biggest hits alongside some of my personal favorites, while also taking into account at least some of the suggestions made by those who left comments on the previous 2 Weird Al top 10s. Despite all this, however, it still hasn't been an easy task, and no doubt a lot of other Weird Al fans' personal favorites will sadly be left off once again, to which I can only say sorry, and if anyone is up for a Weird Al top 10 episode 4, a new joke next year. In the meantime, I look forward again to seeing your own weird list in the comment section below. And while you may not agree with all the choices in this 3rd top 10 any more than you did the first or second time, I still hope you have at least some mandatory fun while listening to it. Right, now is the time for the top 10 list proper, and what better place to start with than, what's it gonna be, people? What's it gonna be? I think it's time we hit up the Amish Paradise, okay? I think it's time. Originally taken from his 9th studio album, Bad Hair Day in '96, the sacrilegiously funny tune, which Weird Al biographer Nathan Rabin aptly describes as, quote, "a comic juxtaposition of hip-hop arrogance and really old-time Religion was probably the most keenly felt absentee from both my previous lists, judging by their respective comments, an oversight which I'm more than happy to correct here. After all, to this day, Amish Paradise remains one of his most famously unpopular tunes, despite, or perhaps, at least to some extent, because of the many controversy which raged when rapper Coolio, whose own mega hit Gangster's Paradise had inspired Yankovic's parody in the first place, at first denied that he had given Weird Al permission to do the song. It turned out that his record company had done so in his place, instead going so far as to state that he regarded Al's version as a desecration of his own work. Weird Al, of course, sincerely apologized to Coolio for the mix-up, and they reconciled, with Coolio himself stating that, in hindsight, it was stupid of me to say something about Yankovic doing a parody of Gangster Paradise. I mean, he did Michael Jackson, he did Prince, people who were definitely more talented than I am, and it just made me look dumb. For his own part, meanwhile, Weird Al once joked that I doubt I'll be invited to Coolio's next birthday party, but at least I can stop wearing that bulletproof vest to the mall. Regardless, the song remains worthy of a place on the list, and as such, I'd like to take you guys to react to the official video. We're going to be having videos for all these songs, so looking forward to that, and thank you again to Evan David for the great write-up for this top 10. So with that said, y'all, let's get to it. Due to all the videos that won't be able to, be up because of copyright on YouTube, but never fear, we have the full Vimeo link in the description. So with that said, man, let's get our Amish Paradise on. Right, Amish Paradise kicking our list off in a fantastic way right here, man. I really enjoyed that one. I thought the costumes and the set were very well done, and there were some literal laugh out loud moments right there. One of my favorites was when the teenagers were looking at the magazine, and normally there'd be a girl in a bikini or whatever, but it just showed the woman barely pulling up her dress, showing part of her leg off, which I don't know, I thought that was funny, and I think it just highlights the fact that Weird Al on this, even when he's poking fun at stuff here and there, it's not from like a malicious intent or anything like that. He's doing it very tongue-in-cheek like, and even where the boy came up, kicked him in the butt, and then he was like, I'm laughing because I know he'll be burning in hell, type of thing. That was funny too, and all in all, lifting off the Coolio track, I think that knowing that original, it always makes it fun when the original, hearing what Weird Al puts his own spin on it. So I thought he did a great job, pretty funny right there, and well, man, that's number 10. We're in for a good list right here, people. So number 9 on the list, we're going now to Jerry Springer. Okay, Jerry Springer, originally taken from Yankovic's 10th and arguably one of his best studio albums, Running with Scissors, in 1999. One of the main targets of Weird Al's satirical odes over the years has been the ridiculous excess of so-called trash TV. And this is, for my money, Evan David says, one of the most entertaining examples of this particular Yankovician subgenre, not least because the tune, which is based on One Week by Bare Naked Ladies, is so very, very catchy in its own right. And while I've never really watched the original Jerry Springer show myself, Weird Al's version of it seemed so irresistibly nutsoid that I almost wish I had, as you can hopefully see for yourself by reacting to the live version of this tune performed in California in 1999 in San Rafael, and taken from the official Weird Al Yankovic live DVD. All right, Jerry Springer bringing it, man. And the thing about this song that really struck out, on top of, obviously the funny nods to the Jerry Springer show and how wild and crazy and nuts that show would be. I'm like Evan David. I never, watched it. I was a little too young whenever it was the Springer heyday, man. But I've seen clips here and there on YouTube or whatever, and yeah, it has that certain, I think that trash TV quality was an apt description of it, and yeah. You never knew what was gonna happen. You had the little skit in there where they were I'm sleeping with your brother and your best friend, and I'm sleeping with the dog and the goat, and just the wild and crazy stuff that late 90s kind of trash TV thing. I don't know, it definitely has its own DNA there that is specific to that time. So but saying that, I thought the band really was tight on this. Sounded exactly like the Bare Naked Ladies track, and that song in general, as Evan David was noting, is just so catchy, and the cadence that Weird Al was singing it yeah, you can help but be drawn into it right there. So I was just impressed with how tight the band sounded, how great the bass work was, and on top of all the observations that Weird Al was making on top of that. So we're gonna go now to song number 8 right here, "The Night Santa Went Crazy," originally taken from Bad Hair Day. This gleefully twisted tune, a pastiche of a lesser-known Soul Asylum tune called Black Gold, just barely beat out Weird Al's other Yuletide anthem, the equally bleak-humored Christmas at Ground Zero, for a spot on this list due to the uniquely savage nature of its own lyrical twists and turns, with Yankovic's often underrated storytelling skills at the height as he recounts the dark saga of Kris Kringle finally turning heel after millennia of mistreatment by those who take Merry Christmas far too much for granted, with extra gory results that you can best discover by checking out this live version, again, from that San Rafael gig. All right, wow, "The Night Santa Went Crazy," and boy, did Santa really go crazy. Fantastic storytelling here by Weird Al, and this is the first song on the list where I wasn't familiar with the original track that he was parroting, the Soul Asylum Black Gold song. But in any case, I did enjoy the musicianship there, and especially in the live version with the fake snow falling down. Like it made for a good visual and live performance right there. And yeah, we just had a wild and out there Santa right here, chopping up Vixen, eating him, saying he tasted like chicken. He was tired, man. We'd pushed Santa too far, and then the SWAT team had to come and intervene, and unfortunately they took Santa out. But the effects of what he did to the reindeer and to the elves are still felt with the trauma there. And I'm a therapist in my day job, man. I could have helped some of the elves out maybe if I would have known that Santa turned this bad, this crazy. But that was a cool song right there in our number 8 spot. And so now we're going to number 7. "I'll Sue Ya," the first of 2 successive tunes taken from Yankovic's 12th studio album, Straight Outta Linwood, in 2006. This belligerent style parody of anarcho-punk outfit Rage Against the Machine pokes fun at the ludicrously absurd possibilities for ruthless judicial aggression allowed by the age-old topic for satire, the all-American legal system. As Nathan Rabin again notes, quote, "The forever furious, eternal litigant yelling his way through I'll Sue Ya makes his shabby case, not through facts or evidence, but through a deafening volume and overwhelming, if ultimately pointless, intensity, with results that in this particular open and shut case can best be judged by please reacting to the song's official animated video." All right, "I'll Sue Ya" coming in there. Al here looking a little like Rage Against the Machine frontman Zach De La Rocha. And man, that definitely had that rage sound, parts of almost their song's Bomb Track, and at the end there, the Killing in the Name. But yeah, I thought that a lot of the kind of a twist on some of these companies were pretty funny. You had Taco Bell, not Bell, but Belle, like the bell, the lady up there, and you had Dell Computers with only one L. You had Kellogg's, but LOGS at the end instead of like the cereal. So and kind of satiring so many different types of things, and just again poking fun at the kind of the American system, how wild it can be that for some of the littlest things and stuff that wasn't even maybe someone else's fault, or these companies that, what, I'm just going to write this lawsuit up and let's see what happens. So again, we're 4 songs in, and a lot of different musical styles coming up here. So with that said, we're going to go now to number 6 on our list, "Canadian Idiot," another Straight Outta Linwood tune, and this time a direct parody of Green Day's bush-busting anti-national anthem, "American Idiot." This sardonically satirical song seemingly pulls a great switcheroo by targeting not the perhaps not always so good US of A, but rather her suspiciously over-friendly neighbors from way up north. Yet, as Nathan Rabin again points out, the song is in fact really about, quote, "the way in which we demonize people who are different, even when those differences make them better than us." Ooh, well said. As such, and with the hopes with any Canadian members of the RTTC community who may watch this vid, we'll take the whole thing as a compliment. We're going to react to the explosive live version of the tune performed in Del Mar, California on the 4th of July, 2012. Well, I'm ready for this. Let's check it out. All right, the Canadian Idiot coming in right there. And before talking about the song itself, I did enjoy that that video included the drum solo reprieve right there, and just kind of taking a little stab at, sometimes the drum solos can get quite insane and overlong, and this drum solo only like 2-3 seconds long, and then boom, we got right into Canadian Idiot. Well, Weird Al looking great with his Canadian jacket on, the blazer looking fire right there. I did like we hit all the Canadian tropes, right? The maple syrup, their biggest export, talking about the accent and what they talk about. Did I say that right? Is that the Canadian way? And that curling, is a sport, and that we pretend that we all care about it, Hey, I got a lot of Canadian friends from the RTTC community, so I'll just stop there. And all in all, man, I'm a big fan of the American Idiot, Green Day track and album for that matter. So it was cool to see it parodied so well, yet again by Weird Al right here, and again showcasing the great energy that he has as a frontman as well. So we are now in the top half of the list. Is your favorite been said yet? Well, stick around and find out if it'll be there, because we're now going to Handy, originally taken from what is still, as of this writing, Yankovic's 14th and last and possibly best studio album, Mandatory Fun, in 2014. This DIY-themed rewrite of Iggy Azalea's Fancy not only shows Weird Al to have as good an ear for a catchy tune as ever, but as Nathan Rabin once again puts it, by the time, quote, Mandatory Fun rocketed to the top of the charts, no one could deny Al's status as a preeminent comic and musical craftsman, verdict with which I, for one, fully agree, and furthermore hope that you'll agree when you react to the song's official video. All right, Handy coming in here. It's been a while since I've heard Fancy by Iggy Azalea, but you couldn't escape that song, and it has such a memorable beat to it, and I like seeing what Weird Al had in store for us here. Kind of had some of that low budget infomercial type vibe on the music video. I think that's what Weird Al was going for right here, and it ended up working quite well for some of the ways he was able to rhyme. I was like, how's he gonna say some of these words, fit them in? But hey, he was able to do it in a very impressive way, even working through the injuries on the thumb. We 2 thumbs up then for you for that right there, Weird Al. And not gonna be like a favorite on the list when I get to those at the end, but still an enjoyable track right there. And again, shows that this was the last record that he's done at the time of this, that he was still having his fastball on this last album here. So I will have to go and check that album out. With that said, we're going now to number 4 on the list, Nature Trail to Hell. Originally taken from his second album, Weird Al Yankovic in 3D in 1984, this 100% original Weird Al tune acts as a gloriously macabre advert for the worst or possibly best horror flick, sadly never to be made. And as a fellow movie buff, I'm sure Trey will enjoy. Well, I'm looking forward to it, especially as captured for posterity, being performed at Green Bay, Wisconsin in 2018 as part of the equally gloriously titled, ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, which, as I mentioned last time around, was by and large dedicated to performing both this and other original and or lesser known Weird Al tunes, and whose revival of, quote, the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour I myself was lucky enough to witness in Manchester this year. We're going to react to the video from that Green Bay performance, so let's get to it. All right, Nature Trail to Hell. I mean, what a great catchy number that was right there. I knew whenever we saw Al just sitting there with the accordion on the stool that we were gonna be in for a treat right there. And the way he was describing Nature Trail to Hell in 3D. Don't forget the 3D part here, people. Hitting on some of those classic like slasher horror tropes in there as well. We're gonna leave the kids alone there. Of course, there's going to be that part 2 at the end where you can really figure out what's gonna happen. Kind of leave us hanging. And again, I just think I like the fake out at the end as well. I thought we were done, and then no, we still had another 30-40 seconds here hitting that chorus again. One of the more catchy choruses that we've had in this entire list right here. That hook just get you right in there, and that's going to be stuck in my head, I think, for the rest of the night. And I just wish wish that we had this movie itself, the way Al was describing it, man. Unfortunately, it's still on the cutting room floor. Maybe that'll be Al's last big project. He makes this movie, right? So with that said, we're gonna go now. We have our top three here, people. And we're going to hit a little Lasagna action, taken from his fifth album, Even Worse, in 1988, and based upon the then recently revived golden oldie La Bamba, as recorded by Richie Valens and later Los Lobos. This magnificent musical meal is perhaps my personal favorite example of that most enduring subgenre of Weird Al tunes, namely those which depict his perennial ongoing obsession with various types of food, more specifically in this case of Italian origin. And while I myself may be far more of a pizza guy than a lasagna guy. Yeah, same here. Sorry, apologies to Garfield. The irresistible flavor of both foodstuff and tune in Al's eye cannot be denied, especially as seen in this live performance on Italian TV, no less, in 1989. All right, lasagna coming in here. The great parody right here of La Bamba, which, La Bamba's music is so, just so energetic and fun. And I think Al was able to keep the spirit of the original in this track right here while doing his classic wit and humor, and giving that to us as well. I particularly enjoyed the points where even with the set, we had the dinner tables behind him. He just had to get a glass of water at some point there, and then he even went up running in the crowd. The crowd was getting into it, man, clapping. One of my favorite live performances that we've had on this top 10 list right here. And hey, I'm glad that we have it, since it is so long ago, 1989 Italian TV. Sometimes stuff like that gets lost in the shuffle. So shout out yet again to YouTube for housing all this stuff. And so a great track right there, man. And now we have two left, people. What is going to be number two? Well, it's going to be Bob. We have Bob right out here. Originally taken from his 11th studio album, Poodle Hat in 2003, the creation of this stupendously silly style parody of the works of a certain Mr. Dylan has been described in decidedly tongue-in-cheek terms. As Weird Al himself says, quote, "I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to write a song entirely composed of palindromes? So I started working on putting all these palindromes together. I read a rough draft of it and I was thinking, this sounds like it really should be profound, but it isn't. This is a Bob Dylan song." And when I realized that the name Bob is a palindrome, I thought, okay, we're done here. All right, so we're going to be checking out the official music video. All right, our number two song on the list, Bob, coming in here. One of my favorites, maybe because I am such a big Bob Dylan fan right here. I love the way Al was parodying the Subterranean Homesick Blues song that and video that Bob famously did with D.A. Pennymaker back in the day in the mid 60s. And the cue card things were awesome, and all these palindromes were really impressive. They, especially in the first half of the song, and then I think towards the end, Al was just showing some of the ridiculous ones that he could put forth through here. That, oh yeah, wow, this sounds really wise and impressive, and at the end of the day, maybe doesn't really make any sense at all. So just like some people think some of Dylan's music is. So all in all, I love the parody of the video, even the costume that Al was wearing. This was one of my favorites for sure, man. I really enjoyed that one. And now, drum roll, please. We are on to number one on the list. What's it going to be? It's going to be the Polka Face. All right, come on now. Originally taken from his 13th record, Apocalypse, in 2011, we first began this Weird Al Odyssey way back when in part one of what became this top 10 trilogy with a live polka medley. How could I forget? And so it now seems fitting to close out this third and final, well, we'll see, Weird Al top 10 list with another prime example of what Nathan Rabin once dubbed, quote, the best way to experience recent pop hits, namely the Weird Al polka medley. That unique spin through the ephemeral excitement of some of pop's greatest, or at least catchiest, recent hits. And therefore, I'd like you to please react to this clip of the tune being performed live in Toronto 2011 as part of the official Apocalypse Live DVD. And then after that, y'all, I will give my favorites, give Evan David's honorable mentions, and just my overall thoughts on the list. Let's get it. All right, a worthy number one coming in right here, Polka Face. Definitely one of my favorites of the list right here, mainly because I hadn't thought of a lot of these songs that Weird Al was parodying. But this was prime kind of like my late middle school, very early high school years. A lot of these tracks and that 2010, 2011, even a couple 2009 songs thrown in there. Starting and ending it with of course Lady Gaga's a Poker Face song. But you had a lot of things thrown in there. Justin Bieber's Baby. I enjoyed the animation on the back where he actually was a baby. Kid Cudi's Day and Night was another one of my favorites that were thrown in there as well. But really, a lot of great tracks. The Katy Perry I Kissed a Girl song. I enjoy the animation for that as well. Again, it's just so frantic. So much energy that Al's bringing right here. And it looked like he started the show with that. You had the bubbles going. Everything was going. And, you had the mad scientist with the accordion right there, holding everything down. Really impressive that he's able to do all these songs that are in different types of genres and yet put them all into the polka type of style, and yet it somehow works here, people. So great way to end this list. And before we get to my favorites, I'm going to mention some of Evan David's honorable mentions. Everything from Ricky, I Love Rocky Road, another one, Rides the Bus, I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead, Buy Me a Condo, That Boy Could Dance, One More Minute, Christmas at Ground Zero, You Make Me, I Think I'm a Clone Now, Money for Nothing / Beverly Hillbillies. She drives like crazy. Attack of the Radioactive Hamsters from a Planet Near Mars. I think based on title alone, I got to check that out. We got I'm So Sick of You, Living in the Fridge, a Bedrock Anthem, Couch Potato, eBay, Virus Alert, Close But No Cigar, Perform This Way, Pac-Man, and above all, Albuquerque, an engrossingly absurd example of Weird Al's truly epic and epically funny storytelling skills, which honestly was only kept off this and the other two lists because it is 11 plus minutes. But hey, I'll have to go check that out in the meantime. But with that said, my favorites here on the list are going to be Poker Face, Bob, and I'm not just saying it because they're the top two tracks on Evan David's list, but I really enjoyed those quite a bit. I'm also going to throw in Amish Paradise. I really enjoyed that one. And then just for how wild the story was, I think I got to throw in song number 8, The Night Santa Went Crazy. Man, I really that one was a left turn, threw me for a loop, man, and all the right ways right there. But that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for me and us and everybody right here today, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this list. If you want a part 4, let us know in the comments, and of course, be sure to share your favorites from this list and maybe your favorite that didn't make it down in the comments. I know myself and Evan David will enjoy reading those. But I guess that's gonna cover it from us today, y'all. Long live Weird Al, and until next time, y'all. Thanks for watching. Happy listening, and I will see you.